what are some things that you miss most about camp? I don't know exactly how long it's been since you've worked or been at a camp, but I'm just wondering, what are the things that you miss most?
I miss it a lot. I miss living in community with others. I miss the beauty of that place. I miss the way that using your body and using your uh, kind of relational capacity and using your mind are all intertwined in a camp setting.
I think mostly how much I would grow in a week. You'd only be there for a week, and at the end of it, I usually felt like an entirely new person.
The healing prayer service every year. I have never felt such power in healing, and you just feel the energy in all of camp.
It's the community that is Camp Marshall that I think I miss the most. It's doing campfires, it's dancing when I don't know how to dance, singing when I don't know how to sing, but being encouraged to do so. And I think that's just something magical about what is Camp Marshall.
When did you first hear about coronavirus? Where were you? What were you doing? And what was that like?
We live in the Seattle area, so it was a concern here early on, I think, compared to many communities in Montana.
We were gifted with a trip to Mexico in January, and my spouse, who is always a few notches ahead of me in terms of world news, at that time when we were flying back into the States from Mexico, we saw some people that were masked, and my daughter was a little nervous. She didn't understand what that meant.
I was up in visiting my cousin up in Bozeman and my sister in Missoula. And then when we came back, it was within a week, they shut down everything here in Florida.
I was probably at school. I think it was one of the mornings, and I was just with a bunch of other teachers, and we started talking about it.
My spouse was, this was in retrospect, said, at that time, we probably should have been aware of the fact that this was already an issue in the world and that we were on the edge of what would be a world pandemic.
Did you ever contract coronavirus or know of anyone who did?
I did. June 21st, I went in and got tested and officially tested positive for it. Even though I was doing my part in being quarantined, keeping my social distance and not really leaving the house, wearing a mask if I did, my roommate was exposed through a mutual friend of ours that he was hanging out with. And when the friend tested positive, we immediately went into our own 14-day quarantine. We got tested within 2 or 3 days and tested positive. I was fortunate enough never to have a fever, but I did lose my sense of smell by my second or third day, and it came back 6 days later. So I was very fortunate to have that back.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you lost your sense of taste and smell?
I did. I didn't notice until I made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for lunch one day, and I ate it, and I was like, wow. The way I describe it is it tasted like the color gray, which is I can't really think of a better description, but if you think about what that would taste like, that's exactly what it tastes like.
My home congregation in New York City, which in the past decade has officially become a bilingual congregation. It merged with a Latino congregation that had been worshiping in the building, and now they are one. And within the first, I don't even think it was 2 months, 44 members of that congregation, and this is not a big congregation, had died of COVID-19. So I know that there are many people in Montana for whom this virus is like something that is really removed, and it just doesn't seem like it's actually touching their lives. But for me to say, okay, the congregation that raised me has lost many people to this virus in awful situations, and makes that it was a real reality check for me of this is real, and maybe we'll be lucky enough not to be touched like that, but we can't deny the fact that this has the potential to affect us and affect people we love all around the world.
So as it kind of started to get worse, as you were starting to see it coming into the States, How would you say your faith kind of supported you during that period of uncertainty?
As Anglicans and Episcopalians, we really value sacraments, which are physical signs of grace. And I think not being able to have those physical signs as tangibly available has helped me see how enriching they are to our faith.
There was a night where I just felt a little bit darker and more anxious on a personal level than I think I've yet had to feel. And I know a lot of the people that I know have already been there and were there like 2 months ago, because they're in the heart of places where they really are scared to step outside their houses or their apartment building. But I think when it hits me, I try to go back to the prayers of the church, which may not be my deep personal words, but I need to be out of my head. I need to be in words that have been prayed also by so many generations of people before us who have also struggled with a lot worse than I am.
I've definitely had a bigger upturn in my faith, having faced, especially when I was first finding out that I had the virus and I wasn't sure what symptoms were going to be coming from that and whether I was going to be one of the unfortunate people who had more severe symptoms. And I'm very lucky to say that I wasn't. And I'm very glad that I was able to turn to faith in times when I was unsure.
What was it like for you to learn about George Floyd's death on top of the protests, on top of coronavirus? Very tempestuous year, as you know. And so what was that all like for you when you first heard about it?
It was obviously deeply discouraging, and at the same time a symptom of a problem that maybe our community wasn't as in touch with as we needed to be.
I've got some pretty close ties, both personally and familially, to South Minneapolis, including the fact that my brother and sister-in-law live there. I was thinking not of some sort of vague neighborhood. I was thinking of this neighborhood that I actually have this like long-term tie to. And I think I have felt motivated in a way that maybe I haven't felt for a long time. To say my work as a white person, a white woman in the church, is to continually draw attention to our need to be anti-racist in the world.
How would you say we as a community can better this situation?
In addition to just a commitment to prayer, I think trying to seek out voices that we might not otherwise hear and listen, and seek to act in response to that listening.
The simple answer is to just be kind and to be willing to make change, but also to be willing to listen. That's the thing that our whole culture has sort of lost the ability to do is when someone comes and tells you a story, half the time you're either not listening or you feel like you have to be like, well, I've had it worse, let me one up you. And so for the racial injustice, it's important to listen to what the Black people are saying and what do they want and what are they feeling and how are they dealing with this, and then be like, well, how can I help you?
I mean, the 2020 is huge. It was already huge before, May, and then it got really huge, and it's going to stay huge in terms of a historical epoch that people are going to write about for decades and try to make sense of what happened to our world.
Do you have any words for campers who are, not able to go to camp this summer?
Really just, remember we all want to be there in person and we all want to feel God's love, but I mean, we can all do it on our own, and it's still important to use this time of quarantining and sheltering in place to reach out to the community. You know, the last day of every camp week, everyone exchange phone numbers and does all these things, introduce their parents to their friends and everything. Use that. Use the technology. Use Zoom. Use texting, Snapchat, to reach out and to find the community, because you never know what a simple message could mean to someone in this time.